Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Marina, everybody. I should have had the kid do this. She could see. A reading from the Book of Webster. Yarn. God, it's a lot of reverb. I can really hear myself. Yarn. It is any spun thread. Are you still looking over my shoulder? Any spun thread, wool, flax, silk, cotton, etc., prepared for weaving, knitting, rope making, etc., or a long continuous strand of glass, paper, plastic, metal, etc., or a long, often exaggerated tale of adventure, especially told by a seaman or a traveler to spin a yarn, to tell a long tale of untrue adventures. This is where I come in tonight, by the way. To make up a long, rambling excuse, again, where I'm going to come in tonight, but the talent will take care of me. Don't worry about it. Here we go. Hold on. Thank you. I'm over 60 now, so I just figured I'm not carrying this 25-pound book around. I'm going to let Marina do it. Stories. We've all got them. Whether it's the I scored the championship goal or I got to kiss Mary Ellen McMeekin in 10th grade. That was actually my true story. Thank you very much. Or even the fish was this big. We've all got them. Stories. How many times have you heard or even said, I remember when, or I remember that? It's our stories that make up our lives and become the material that creates the house that holds our life story. Each of these stories is like adding a thread that winds together who we are, who we were, and maybe even who we may become. So the next time that you say, I remember when, remember as well that you are spinning and sharing a yarn. That story has become an essential fabric of your life. Be your story, live your story, embrace your story. And the next time you hear, oh, I remember when, take pride. Be happy as that someone has decided to let you into their house and share their story with you as well. So tonight, we're going to present to you several stories or yarns of women and their loved ones in situations that may be joyful, challenging, sometimes terrifying, but how they coped, conquered, and ultimately became the heroine in their own story. And through it all, something as simple as the act of knitting can be powerful in its soothing, calming effect as it gives us as a craft, as well as on the gifts it bestows to friends and loved ones. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to enjoy tonight's production of The Yarns of Life, created by the incredibly talented Jessica Cumberbirch. Kindly ensure that your cell phone ringers are turned off and that you refrain from filming tonight's show. Now I'm going to make you do it again. Bonsoir à tous. S'il vous plaît, profitez-en de notre production de Les fils de la vie, créée par l'incroyable talentueuse Jessica Cumberbirch. Veuillez vous assurer que le sonnerie de votre cellulaire est éteinte et que vous ne filmez pas l'émission de ce soir parce qu'on a une vidéographer professionnel. I never get that right. If we are seating comfortably, let's begin. I wish I was older, she says to herself. I'm still so young and unprepared. I'm feeling so small and naive. Can't they tell? Growing up has never made me so scared. Am I too short? Am I too thin? How will I ever grow up to be tough? A compliment sounds just like birds in the wind, or a language not heard well enough. My life and my story are set to be spun, yet the world still seems too large for me. Strands of self-doubt bind up my feet instead of weaving a future where I can be free. They say it takes time. They say it takes trust. My head and my heart, I will need to adjust. They say to be patient and learn as I grow, but I feel like I'm walking on eggshells when all I want to do is let myself go? What if I stumble? What if I fall? What if I'm not ready to run? What if I can't tell which damn direction to turn into the woman I want to become? But if I believe in myself, to my soul to be true, that woman I know will arrive. And all of these growing pains that hamper me now are just signs that I'm truly alive. I'll take as much time, and in me I will trust, until all of my worries and fears can be hushed. I'll try to be patient and promise to try, till I'm no longer walking on eggshells, and I'm finally ready to fly. Till I'm no longer walking on eggshells, and I'm finally ready to fly. She does everything, man. That's awesome. I'm going to pay you more, I promise. Who here has a phobia? Wow. You guys are pretty darn perfect, aren't you? Whatever. Or even something they don't like or hate. Like dill pickle chips. Hard pass. Overcoming our fears. If you think about it, we do it almost every day. Whether it's a little victory, such as going into battle to shoosh away that spider that's hanging on the shower curtain in the morning, or braving the marauding throngs of shoppers at Costco. That one's me, by the way, and it's real. It's called anoclophobia, fear of crowds. And I've got it. I've always had it. Give me a tarantula any day over slipper-wearing, shopping cart, bumper car shoppers who speed and careen around the aisles like chariot drivers in Ben-Hur. I'll take 2 tarantulas over that, if you please. Once my wife, who knows me oh so well, sees that look come over my face, she just points and goes straight to the car. I don't walk, man. I run to the car. I've always been afraid of crowds, and I guess I got that from my mom, who had agoraphobia and anoclophobia. You know, she could barely leave the house for years and years and years. But she got over it. She fought through it and forced herself to battle her anxiety to go out, do groceries or other errands that needed doing. Completely terrified, but this woman was fearless, even when facing her worst fears. Although she was mostly deaf and scared to death of people, she was always the heroine in her own story, as she always was in mine. She provided, cared for, protected the family, because that was much more important than being comfortable. Because if you want to live, truly live, you must challenge yourself. You must be uncomfortable. She reminds me a lot of the woman in the next skit who worked so hard to overcome her anxieties and become the heroine in her story. Hops on the bus at 4th and Main. It's a long way downtown, but her mind is made. She takes out her knitting as she sits down, and as the needles click, she gets lost in the sound, lost in the crowd. She stops in and peeks in this downtown cafe that she's always wanted to go into, but not today. You see, she's made a promise to herself. knit herself some courage, and once her sweater is finished, then she'll put her fears on the shelf. 'Cause one step forward is all it takes, and she's hopeful for the change that this may make. 'Cause if she puts on that wool sweater, yeah, that's all it'll take. 'Cause it's not just a sweater, it's her cape. So on this cold November day, she finds herself outside that same cafe. In her bag there's needles and there's yarn that nimbly spun that sweater she now has on. So she sits down and orders a latte, safely inside her sweater's embrace. Looking around, the strangers no longer seem so strange. She sees them in herself, and slowly her fears slip away. 'Cause one step forward is all it takes, and she's praying for the change that this may make. 'Cause if she puts on that wool sweater, that's all it'll take. 'Cause it's not just a sweater, it's her cape. There's a man behind a briefcase, and a girl's phone covers her face. Looking around, she starts to realize that every person's sweater comes in all shapes and sizes. So she pulls her sweater sleeves further down to hide the fact that she's shaking. She knows that she's shaking. My God, she's shaking, but yet she's proud. The one step forward was all it takes, and she's grateful for the change that this has made. She throws her sweater on the sofa, yeah, but just for today. 'Cause it was never just a sweater. With each stitch, she's stronger, better. And every superwoman needs her cape. Oh, Father, grandfather, who she loved so well, how she wishes that you were still here. You taught her to love and to hold her head high and to always face head-on her fears. Your words have not faded over the years, and your sweet face has not left her heart. Your legacy shines like the bright yellow sun, your favorite color in life as in art. Your withered hands held hers as a child with eyes that saw oh so much. Your weathered face holds volumes of stories that spoke to her with one touch. She'll carry your name and carry the torch, the beacon of light you bestowed, and promise to always carry herself with seeds that you've so wisely sowed. Now then, what more can be said of a man when a mountain is crowned in his name? This man, Fred Durant, dear Jess's grandfather, is the man that I speak of, the same. So here's to the old man who lit the way, and here's to the young man in her life, who somehow reminds her in some ways of him. And she's proud to stand here as his wife. Now, a young woman's love can always be trusted and presented in so many ways, through intimate evenings or morning's wild chaos. The breadth of their love can amaze. A gesture as simple as knitting a sweater that helps to keep her lover warm can mean more than candy or dozens of roses, or even some cheaply penned poem. How well she knows that the fabric of love is spun in a mosaic of real and fey is simply a testament to all of her strengths and her vision to light her family's way. So here's to the women of old and new love that have made and make us what we are. Whether now at our side or in heaven above, they're our compass, our sextant, our star. They nurture and guide, love and protect. With wisdom they've gleaned from the past, from men who moved mountains or conquered the seas, and the women who lit up their path. So now in conclusion, here's to all love. My parting wish here, friends, is thus. Learn from the past, open your hearts to the future, and let love fall upon all of us. This will probably be, we're going to be a little serious. As serious as I can be, right? In certain instances in our lives, we may find ourselves in situations where we sometimes become another persona. Put on a costume, be in a play, if you will. Whether it's impressing a peer, simply spinning a yarn at the local pub, or reacting to a stressful situation. But nothing, it seems, ignites a change of character as much as war. For those old enough here to have had parents or grandparents in the wars, one thing I always noticed in common is that it changed them. It really did change them. I'm sure that the happy, confident person, I'm not going to do anyone's hair, don't worry about it tonight, but that person who was on a certain path abruptly changed identity when their lives in the world indeed took a 180-degree turn. My grandfather was a barber in Glasgow, Scotland. These are still some of his tools. I have the box of all of his old tools, and I love going through them every once in a while. And his life completely changed when the war came around. He was a happy guy. He's given guys the hot towel treatment, cutting hair, giving them that close, smooth shave. And then, out of nowhere, he trades that for a bayonet, which has an altogether different and sinister purpose. His life changed completely. Him, others, for the sake of God and country, or mere survival, had to become a person that was now solely focused on keeping themselves or their families safe, and just being able to fight, claw, and scrape through the day just to make it to the next. Although the men and women who served their countries bravely were certainly heroes to many, the unsung heroines, the original single parents, the mothers of boys and girls sent off to war, or the mothers that are left with small children kept at home, bore the brunt of being everything: their family's provider, protector, the source of comfort and guidance, and the one last pure source of unwavering love and security in what certainly must have been the most stressful of times. Oh, dear girls, we're going to war. That's what the papers say. But I pray that they must be wrong. For a world so bright and gay. So hide your jewelry and your rings. Turn your sweaters out inside. Since there's nowhere left to run. Who we are is what we'll hide. But if you must, you'll have to fight. Though you've been taught to do no harm, they know now how to seek you out from that band upon your arm. But now you know you must be strong. Show no fear behind your eyes, though they have been taught to hate you. They don't know the reason why. Don't let hate hurt in your heart. Let the love that's in your soul light the path to lead your lives. And like a sweater, keep you from the cold. May you learn to turn the page, become mothers, lovers, wives. But don't forget who you once were, for the rest of your sweet lives. Don't forget who you once were, for the rest of your sweet lives. Oh dear girls, we're going to war. Jess m'offrir un défi pour cette année. Elle m'a demandé de faire une chanson en français. Même que je parle dans deux langues. Mais merci. Mais peut-être garder l'applaudir jusqu'à la fin. Hein? Parce que je parle déjà deux langues. Je parle anglais et noufi. Mais français, en tout cas, je vais essayer. J'espère que vous l'aimerez. Les fils de la vie qui attachent nos cœurs, un couple amoureux ou entre frères et sœurs, qui nous rapproche et rend nous entiers. Avec chaque fil, nous tissons l'histoire de nos vies. Raconte-moi une histoire d'amour ou de famille. Ça me raconte mon passé, le tricot de ma vie. Dis-moi quelque chose de vrai et pas juste une comptine. Je veux me sentir connecté à quelque chose, je peux appeler le mien. Les fils de la vie qui attachent nos cœurs, un couple amoureux entre filles et pères, qui nous rapproche et rend nous entiers. Avec chaque fil, nous tissons l'histoire de nos vies. Même si je trouve ça drôle, ou même si j'ai pleuré, dans tes bras, tiens-moi près. Montre-moi la lune et le soleil, les fils de la vie qui attachent nos cœurs, un couple amoureux ou entre fils et mère, qui nous rapproche et rend nous entiers. Avec chaque fil, nous tissons l'histoire de nos vies. Et comment chaque jour, il joue un rôle pour donner vie à tous les jours. Et nous à savoir, comme une douce mère qui éclaire la haine du mal et la haine de l'amour. Les fils de la vie qui attachent nos cœurs, couple amoureux ou entre frères et sœurs, qui nous rapproche et rend nous entiers. Avec chaque fil, nous tissons l'histoire de nos vies. Avec chaque fil, nous tissons l'histoire de nos vies. Merci. Jess, what are you doing?
Brian, I'm looking for the new sweater I'm making. I can't find it.
Oh, that's what I'm sitting on.
There it is.
There you go.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jess. Someday she's a flower, someday she's a bird. Someday she thinks that she'll conquer this world. Someday she dances to the tunes in her head. And some days never gets out of bed. Some days she's happy, some days she's sad. Some days lonely, but that's not so bad. A tiny spark in this great big world. Whoa, she's a patchwork girl. Two bright socks, a mismatched pair. One is the color of her hair. She softly laughs 'cause she doesn't care. Yeah, she's got hopes and she's got dreams. What she says is what she means. Free from spirit as she whirls. Ooh, she's a patchwork girl. Just got her clothes from the pile, just reaches in and closes her eyes, 'cause she lives for the surprise. One leg first and then one arm. She can never do no harm. Lives and loves in her crazy world. Ooh, she's a patchwork girl. Ooh, she's a patchwork girl. Ooh, she's a patchwork girl. Any knitters in the house? Anybody know how to fix this stuff? This sweater that's barely hanging on to me, I've been hanging on to for 40 years or more. And much to my wife's chagrin. But we've come to a treaty at Gallagher Manor, happy to say. I'm allowed to wear it to go out, rake the leaves, clean the gutters. And for some reason, I'm always being asked to go light the barbecue or the fire pit wearing this sweater. I'm sure there's an ulterior motive, but I don't know it yet. But this is my my Uncle Cecil's sweater. And he wore it fishing because his wife, Helen, knitted it for him so many years ago. And he gifted it to me, and I've always worn it proudly since then, as you can tell. But being a guitar player, you tend to, have belt buckles and things, and this is sort of what happens. But every time I put this sweater on, it instantly brings me right back to being a young lad with him lobstering and jigging cod in his boat out in Cape Breton. It instantly brings you back. And I'm jigging cod that are the size of me, and he's got this sweater on and a little hat like this, and he always had a pipe in his mouth. And maybe that's what knitting is all about. It doesn't just create a garment. It creates a whole story. It creates a feeling. Instantly can transport you back to when we got that sweater, So you should be very, very proud here, because this is seeing something outside of its natural element, like Yeti or Sasquatch. And you also get a story out of it, because you get to say, remember when we saw that holy sweater? So think about that. You get a story out of my shenanigans with this sweater. But as Jess has so beautifully demonstrated this evening, is that knitting through all of these stories has healing, comforting, maybe even mystical kind of properties. And in this last story that we're going to put together for you, We hope you enjoy it, and it will be narrated, actually, by some people who contributed to the show with their love of knitting and how it impacted their lives. But let's start with a song. Because it's my show, and I can. It's not really my show, who am I kidding? Kill me. All right, if you know the beginning to this one, please sing along. Ba, ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. You take it. Very nice. Though nursery rhymes and lullabies tend to fade from our adult lives, that doesn't mean there's no stories left to tell. From old to young, we pass down tales, memories that soon unveil, lessons learned from laughter and from strife, these yarns of life. Like favorite sweaters, old and frayed, that comfort us in every way. Familiar patterns point to where we're from. Stories that have been passed down from rocking chairs or tables round are spun into the fabric of our lives. These yarns of life. Knitting needles click away like old typewriter keys, weaving a tapestry of love and family that we can wear proudly on our chests. Know that within these strands we are blessed. Though nursery rhymes and lullabies still dance behind our children's eyes, the stories we pass down, please wear them well. Stories that we hold tight and will keep us warm throughout the night, we're spun into the fabric of our lives, these yarns of life. These yarns of life. Baba, black sheep, have you any wool?
I don't think I can remember Mom not knitting. I think she knitted before I was born, so I'm just used to the clickety-clack of my mom's knitting needles. Usually sitting down with a cup of coffee and a cigarette smoldering in an ashtray. That's what I remember. But her sweaters were absolutely fabulous. She was a really wonderful knitter. And I have a lot of happy memories around knitting.
Tricoter est une activité pratiquée par ma famille depuis plusieurs générations. Je me souviens des tricots que ma grand-mère maternelle m'offrait lorsque j'étais jeune enfant. Ma mère a commencé à tricoter à l'âge de 4 ans. Après avoir pris sa retraite, elle a confectionné une multitude de vêtements pour moi et mes 2 garçons, des accessoires, des couvertures. Et la voilà, à l'âge de 93 ans, elle tricote toujours. À l'automne 2022, je me suis remise au tricot après un arrêt d'une 40aine d'années, le temps d'une vie professionnelle et familiale. Mon conjoint étant à l'extérieur pour son travail semaine après semaine, je trouvais les soirées longues. Je me suis alors replongée dans le tricot et voilà que je suis devenue passionnée. Ce passe-temps me permet d'être productive et je suis fière d'offrir mes œuvres à mes proches bien-aimés.
One of the things that has always surprised me about knitting is when you go somewhere where there are a lot of knitters, for example, at a knitting convention or an exhibit or an event, there's such a sense of community. And I always marvel at how knitting brings people together through a common thing, through a hobby, and then you get to know each other and you develop a sense of belonging. Knitters understand each other, and I think we knit because we have to, not because we want. Well, because we have to, because we want to.
As a child, I loved to watch my mother knit every night while she would watch television. My cat Frisky would try to get the ball of wool away from her, and it really is a fond memory that makes me smile. And now that my mother's been gone for many, many years, I still hold on to those mitts that she made me, and I cherish them because I know she knitted them out of love for her family, and it kept us warm and it kept us cozy. And to me, that's something, that's such a wonderful memory.
So I started learning how to knit when I think I was about 5. My grandmothers taught me. Both my grandmothers were great knitters. They lived in BC and I lived in Ottawa. So it was really very sporadic that I'd actually get to work with them. So I started making leg warmers and they had a million holes in them because every time I'd make a mistake, I didn't have anyone to help me. So I'd have to wait 8 or 9 months to fix it. So I had these leg warmers that were very, very full of holes, but I loved it. I loved the fact that I could undo and redo once I learned how to do things, that you had so many different textures, colors, and when you're knitting, I always like to knit for people, and you really think about that person while you're knitting. So it's really reliving the memories, your experiences, your relationship. And sometimes it can take like 40, 50, 60 hours, sometimes even 100 for me, depending on what I'm doing, if it's a really complex sweater or a big blanket or something like that. So I find knitting is a real intimate experience. We share with someone all that time, all of our thoughts. And if you're given a gift of a sweater or a scarf, it's precious. That person has really put their part of themselves into it. And I'm always so touched when I receive something that's been knit by someone, that they took all that time and that they thought of me. And I love to think of the person I'm knitting for and the love I have for them, or the friendship. So it's a really beautiful, beautiful thing to knit. And I find it's a big part of my life. And I've done it since I was 5, so a good 40 years. And I will always knit. And I really recommend to go there and try it. And it's so much fun because you can always undo it. So if ever you make a mistake, don't be shy. Start over, and you can create something new.
So here's the story of why I love knitting. It's a meditation to me. When I'm knitting, all I think of is how many stitches I have on my needle, how many are putting on there. All I do is count, 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 count. So you can get lost in just counting the number of stitches. Nothing else matters when I'm doing that. I worry that at some point I have 50 projects and stashed away in my stash, and I may never get to finish them all. I hope I do before my life ends. And if there's a heaven, I hope that there's a limitless a limitless knitting store for me. It is the best thing in the world as far as I'm concerned. One of the best pleasures in life. I love, love, love knitting.
When I was a little girl, we always used to receive knitted sweaters from our Aunt Peg from Scotland, and we never met her. We never really knew who she was, but every year she would knit us these wonderful wool, kind of scratchy wool sweaters. But the problem was the sleeves were always another foot too long, and it was always the same. They always came with these great long arms, and we'd roll them up and roll them up, and then we'd sit and write our thank you letters and tell her they fit perfectly.
I was bound by knitting before I was born. My father was a soldier with a Red Cross on his arm who tried to save lives in a land war-torn. From Juno Beach into the trenches, through the bullets and battles of savage sin, till he fell on a bridge outside of Berlin. In a bed he laid, his body splintered and splayed, till one day an angel of mercy came to sit with needles and wool and teach my father to knit. The months passed by and winter turned to spring, and my father began so slow to stitch his body whole, to heal his heart and save his soul. At a faraway window my grandmother stayed as time ticked and her needles clicked. Bring my son home, she willed and prayed, stitch by stitch, one by one, till at last God smiled and let him come. The years pass by and I am born, and run to kneel at my grandmother's knee, and she smiles as she knits and tenderly teaches me. Big needles in my little fingers as they struggle and strive, but day by day these fingers grow and thrive, and I laugh out with joy as my knitting comes alive. Socks for my father, a shawl for my mother, and bunting blankets for my wee baby boys. Booties and bibs and toques and tees, all for my little grandchildren sitting on my knees. The strands of life spinning themselves together, unraveling, then spiraling around themselves again in an endless dance of harmony and war and harmony once more. And my father smiles down upon me and scoops me in his arms as timelessly he places me at my grandmother's knee. And I listen to her needles sing and to my little babies cling, knowing that we are all bound together in the yarns of life that last forever.